Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and we are going to talk about the sales numbers for the month of October because they are officially in, and it is absolute carnage in some categories. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. To properly explain what happened in the sales month of October 2022, we actually have to quickly talk about what happened in October of 2021 first to really set the stage for everything. So in October of 2021, car inventories were at an all-time low, but buying pressure was at an all-time high. If you guys remember, the stock market and the cryptocurrency market peaked in November, just a month later. And so in October, everyone felt like super rich because everything was going up. And so because there was so little inventory and there was a lot of demand, cars sold for ridiculous amounts of money in October. And so dealers made a ton of money in October of 2021. But what you're going to see in this video is that even though they made a ton of money, they actually didn't sell that many cars because, again, inventories were at an all-time low. So yeah, they didn't sell a lot of cars last year, but they sold them for a ton of money. The next thing we need to quickly talk about is where all of the car makers are standing when it comes to their year-to-date sales numbers compared to last year. So right now, pretty much every single automaker is in the red except for Tesla, Chrysler, and Genesis. And some manufacturers are doing better than others. Some manufacturers are only, -2 to maybe 4% compared to where they were at volume-wise last year. But some manufacturers are down by like 30 to 40% in terms of their volume compared to last year. And if you're Buick, you're down by like 50% still because, well, yeah, Buick's having problems right now. But the point that I want to make with this point in the video is that even though the numbers I'm about to share look like the market might be improving in terms of volume, we're still down by a massive amount year to date, except for those three manufacturers that I just mentioned. Now, during the sales month of October, a lot of automakers were in the green compared to the sales month of October 2021. But like I said at the beginning of the video, in 2021, inventory was at an all-time low, and so volume was at an all-time low. But again, profitability was at an all-time high because dealers had so much pricing power in October of 2021. And so even though on the surface, October of 2022 looks like things are improving because, well, dealer inventories are starting to slightly increase and sales volume is also starting to slightly increase, that is only part of the picture. The other part of the picture is actual profitability and also what segments are increasing and what segments didn't actually increase this month. On the profitability side of things, dealerships are in fact less profitable when it comes to new cars on a per car basis in October of 2022 compared to October of 2021. And it makes complete logical sense. Take away the increase in interest rates and all that other stuff that's wreaking havoc on the market right now and just look at it from a supply demand standpoint. There were less cars available in October of 2021 compared to 2022. And so right, supply and demand says that, well, the cars are going to sell for less money now because we have slightly more cars available to us. So yeah, profitability is slightly down for dealers when it comes to new cars. Now, in terms of the segments that are struggling and the segments that are doing really well, it's a mixed bag. So people are pretty much pulling back when it comes to full-size trucks and larger-sized SUVs, and they're diving into smaller-sized crossovers and sedans. And that makes complete sense because gas prices are still really high and car prices are really high, and people don't really have a positive outlook on the economy, and so they just want to get something that is fuel efficient and affordable, hence why there is such a dive into those cars. But there is a big problem here, and the fact is those are the segments that are struggling the most in terms of volume when it comes to being produced. And so you have the situation where we now have a lot more demand for the types of vehicles that manufacturers are struggling the most to build. So what this looks like practically is you have brands like Ram that are dedicated to selling trucks that are actually in a position where they sold fewer trucks in October of 2022 compared to October of 2021. And then you have other brands like General Motors that sells pretty much everything that are absolutely killing it right now. Like General Motors, with all of their brands except for Buick, is up in the month of October compared to October of 2021. But something to also mention is some of these brands that are like having huge positive numbers right now are having those huge positive numbers because October of 2021 was so bad for them when it comes to overall supply. And General Motors is definitely one of those cases. And again, that's why if you look at General Motors year to date, they're negative with all of their brands. Now, the thing that's really interesting is the Japanese brands, which should be massively positive right now, are in the red big time. And it's not because of demand for their product. It's simply because they don't have enough supply to build cars. Every single Japanese brand right now is absolutely struggling to build enough cars to meet demand. I mean, go into like a Toyota dealership or a Honda dealership and just try to order like a base model commuter car, like a Corolla or a Civic. And you're probably going to be told that you have to wait months and months and maybe even a year plus before you're going to even be able to get a vehicle. And so again, you have this weird dynamic happening within the car industry where you've got manufacturers that are dedicated to building these larger, more expensive vehicles that are just sitting on them. And then you have manufacturers that are dedicated to building affordable vehicles, and they're either absolutely killing it right now because they have supply or they don't have supply. And so they're in a position where, well, they got wait lists, so they have the demand, but they can't meet the demand, so they're still hurting. Something else that I find incredibly intriguing about this whole situation is, again, the brands that are doing decent right now and the brands that are struggling, aka they are selling fewer cars in October of 2022 compared to October of 2021. And here's what I've noticed in the regular car market and also in the luxury car market is there are certain brands that people flocked to in 2021 that they are not becoming repeat customers with anymore. So a good example of a couple brands is Buick and Volvo. So Buick non-luxury and then Volvo on the luxury side of things. So with Buick, you had a lot of people that couldn't get a product from Chevy, they couldn't get a product from GMC or Cadillac. And Buick obviously is still a General Motors product. And so there was a lot of people in October 2021 that went and purchased Buicks because they couldn't get a product from the brand that they traditionally purchase from under the umbrella. And if you're wondering, well, how did Buick have inventory and the other manufacturers didn't? Well, it's Buick. Let's be real here, guys. Like in a regular market, Buicks just sit on the lot and they take a long time to sell. And so in October of 2021, if a GM dealership had cars in the lot, they were most likely Buicks. And so that's why they're down by like 50% year to date. Like they are absolutely struggling because, well, people can now get Chevys and they can get GMCs and they can get Cadillacs, so they don't want anything to have to do with Buick. Now, Volvo is the other case. So in 2021, people could not get Mercedes, Audi, BMW, a lot of the traditional luxury manufacturers that they purchased from. So they decided to buy Volvo instead because they're like, okay, well, it's still a luxury car and there's some availability with it. And so now you see in October 2022, Volvo is in the red. And if you go to Volvo dealerships, like they have cars on the ground that people can purchase, but you also can purchase BMWs now, Mercedes, and Audi. And so people are going back to the brands that they normally purchase from within those segments. And so it's interesting to see this like come full circle where people left brands because they didn't have cars and now those brands have cars again and people are just going right back to the brands that they purchased from prior. Now, in terms of what this means for the overall car market, this shows that the market is still in decline because despite the fact that a lot of automakers were technically in the green for October of 2022 compared to October of 2021, they're still all in the red for the 2022 sales year, except for, again, Chrysler, Genesis, and Tesla. But if you look at the sales figures for those three brands that are in the green for the 2022 sales year, you'll notice that month by month, that increase is actually softening. And so like Tesla, for example, year to date is up by like over 70%. But then you look at, October of 2022 versus October of 2021, and it's in like the 20% range. And so the demand is softening. And so again, those manufacturers aren't in the red quite yet, but they're probably going to be in the red within the next 6 months to a year. So how can you use this information to actually help you out as a buyer? And well, it depends on the segment that you're looking within. So if you are looking at a manufacturer that's struggling right now, or one of the segments that's struggling right now, like big pickup trucks and SUVs, well, you finally have some level of negotiating power. Now, the only downside about this whole situation is, well, interest rates have increased by so much this year that had you purchased a car in October of 2021 and paid over MSRP for it in any of these segments, chances are your payment would be the exact same if you purchased that car today with a discount off of MSRP with today's interest rates. Like that's how much these interest rates have actually increased. And I've seen several dealers give me several examples of this happening where they'll show me the same exact vehicle that they sold last year, and they'll show me the payment on it and the markup over MSRP, and then they'll show me the same vehicle this year with a discount off of MSRP, and the payments are exactly the same. So I guess if you're a cash buyer, it's great, but if you're financing, it's pretty much sixes. Like, you would have gotten the same deal if you had purchased the vehicle last year, because your payment ultimately is the same. So over the course of the loan, you're paying the same amount of money. Now, if you're looking in the segments that are really hot right now, again, the fuel efficient crossovers and sedans, it's a situation where you're just gonna have to get in line. You're gonna have to be patient, because again, if you're not patient, well, then that means you're gonna be paying a price premium on a lot of these cars. And I don't think it makes sense to pay a price premium on those types of cars, because you're buying it to save money. So why would you overpay for something that you're trying to use to save money? Like, it doesn't make any logical sense. It's weird, but people do it all the time. Like last year, people were paying $10,000 over sticker to get a hybrid to save money. And it's like, what? How does that make sense? That is going to cap things off with our video talking about the sales month of October. And I'm just going to say this right now. I think that this is a pretty big sign of what is to come in the future. This is just the start of the declines that we are going to see across the industry. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue to make these like monthly update videos where at the end of every single sales month, I kind of recap what happened and, you know, the trends that we're seeing moving forward. So hopefully that helps you guys out. And if you want to see more content like this, then make sure that you subscribe. And with that being said, I'll see you.